Good, great. Well, thank you. I just want to start by thanking Dr. Van Enneman and the planning committee for having me. It's great to get some time with you today. I know I'm rounding up a busy couple days, but thanks for having me. Um, my name is Banks Baker. I am PAC's Global Director of Product Sustainability, and so in my role, as Dr. Van Enneman had said, I'm in charge of the global introduction and launch of our PRRS resistant pig, and this is among one of the first major commercial gene edits, and we understand just how important this is for our industry, also for our business, but also for our industry, and making sure that we're able to introduce this technology in a way that the full value chain understands exactly what it means. I also understand that Dr. Elena Rice, Genus, our parent company's chief scientific officer, already gave a presentation and covered some of the science and kind of did a deeper dive into what our persistent pig, or what we refer to as PRP, what it is, how it works. And so I'm not going to be talking too much about the technology at all. We're going to be talking about market acceptance. So I'm going to go ahead and dig in here. Our market acceptance strategy is fairly straightforward. We need to make sure that everybody within the value chain understands that gene editing isn't just some type of benefit that's accrued way back at the beginning. And I think as we've seen technologies introduced within agriculture, too often we see them expressed simply as just production efficiencies. And so our market acceptance strategy is very specific, that we want to make sure that we're able to credibly and defensively quantify those benefits and make sure that we can connect with the values that each one of the segments that you can see here that are represented on this slide here care about. And you can see some of these things are very similar. And so for a farmer profitability is obviously extremely important. But when you get back to the consumer, they don't necessarily always want to hear about that, but they do care about food availability, food affordability. And so sometimes it's just a round of making sure that we express those production efficiencies that technology, in this case, our gene-edited persistent pig deliver, making sure that they contextually connect to each level of the value chain. And you can kind of see here, I'm not going to go through each one of these, but there's several overlapping components of values and benefits, but they just have to be expressed slightly different so that each member of the value chain, each segment of the value chain, understands specifically what our persistent pig means to them. I think that's something that we don't always do enough of, answering that question, like, what's in it for me? Why do I care? This isn't just something that's happening that if I don't participate, I don't get anything out of. And so I'm going to share some research with you kind of across those segments and some work that we've been doing to make sure that we can demonstrate and connect with each member of those segments. Of course, the consumer segment is probably the most important. I mean, these are the folks that are actually purchasing our products. These are the ones that the consumers are the ones that are purchasing, consuming, and feeding these meat products to their family. And so we need to make sure that they're telling us the things that they care about, the things that they want to hear, how they want the benefits of gene editing to be expressed to them. And to us, the consumer is very much in the driver's seat. And so we're regularly running consumer insights. This is some consumer insight panels that we ran with Circana. They're a kind of a globally recognized consumer research entity. And we worked with them in 2023 to ask them about what would increase your purchasing intent of a gene-edited pork product, a PRRS-resistant pig. And you can see some of the outcomes here. FDA approval was table stakes. That's a basic requirement. And then after that, animal welfare, increased sustainability, and reduced demand for antibiotics were all key drivers in helping improve that purchasing intent. Also, through some of this research, consumers said that they very much valued transparency, but as we dug deeper into some of that research, they wanted access to be able to understand how products were created, but they didn't necessarily want it to be right in their face or directly on the package. What they told us, and what we continue to see reaffirmed through our research that we're running around the globe, is consumers want to understand what this means to them and how the benefits connect. And so that's exactly what we're doing. And from my previous slide, I can see that you um, can understand why that's our strategy. One of the most important issues that comes up across every single segment, especially at the consumer and at the food service and retail level, is around antibiotic use. Previously to PIC, I actually worked in and led product sustainability or protein sustainability for McDonald's Corporation and their US business. And so I focused on our US protein supply chain. And I can tell you at the end of the supply chain, the pressures on antibiotics are extremely strong. And we need solutions that don't just um, remove antibiotics. We need to be able to make sure that we utilize antibiotics in a responsible way. When animals are sick, they need to be treated, and they need to be treated expeditiously. And so we need interventions and ways that we can truly reduce the need for antibiotics. And this is some research that I wanted to share with you that came out of Iowa State University and their veterinary medicine lab. It was led by Dr. Isidoro Machado underneath the supervision of Dr. Gustavo Silva. And the numbers were pretty striking. And what they looked at was what is the impact of PRRS infection on a herd? And you can see here it's pretty impressive. PRRS infections more than double the use of antibiotics. There was a 380% increase in pig antibiotic treatments and greater than a 200% increase in injectable antibiotic use. That is pre and then post PRRS break. So lower usage of antibiotic and improves and it reduces farmers' cost, but then it also connects with some of the pressures that we're getting from consumers, and then also from further up the value chain, like at the food service and retail level. One of the things that we all are hearing more of, and it is not going to be going away, is around the sustainability discussion, specifically around greenhouse gas reductions and climate action. We've seen an unprecedented amount of corporations. I think 79% of Fortune 500 companies now have some type of climate goal. We've seen a significant amount of countries that have 2050 net zero goals. How are we going to achieve that while we're still feeding a growing global population? And so one of the strongest benefits that we've been quantifying is around understanding the environmental impact of genetic improvement, inclusive of what that would be when our PRRS-resistant pig is available and in the marketplace. And so we worked with Dr. Greg Toma, who is an industry-leading LCA, life cycle assessment modeler, to help us conduct an LCA, which is a standardized scientific model that allows you to understand the environmental impact of a specific product, and in this case, genetic improvement. And so we're working on our PRRS-resistant pig LCA, and so unfortunately, I don't have those numbers to share with you today. I can say that the early numbers were very impressive, but we have completed life cycle assessments on PIC full program genetics versus industry average, both in North America and in Europe. And there's pretty significant reductions. These are meaningful reductions. So in North America, our genetics compared to the industry average provide a 7.5% reduction, and in Europe, a 7.7% reduction. And so we believe as we're trying to create that shared value, this is something that's going to be specifically important for the consumer that cares about climate change, especially when there's a constant drumbeat about animal and animal protein production, but also the food service and retail and the packer processors who almost universally have all made very ambitious climate commitments. And so we're actually creating systems and pathways that would allow the use of this technology to be claimed as greenhouse gas reductions and allow these companies and countries and everybody to achieve their goals through the use of technology. This is a great example of how we're creating shared value. We're taking that production efficiency that the producer is able to achieve, and we're expressing it in terms of an environmental value that the full value chain can then claim. This is a pretty exciting space. We've never seen genetics expressed this way. I'm really excited to say that our life cycle assessment in North America was recently accepted and is peer reviewed and published in the journal Animals. And so if you'd like to take a look at it, it is in the deck that will be shared out later. So we believe that our PRRS-resistant pig provides holistic benefits across the value chain. And I think as we look at continuing to commercialize these types of technologies, we need to make sure that we're not just saying what this means, but that we're able to credibly quantify and then communicate specifically what those impacts are. We're starting to see a lot of questions around greenwashing. We're starting to see a lot of questions around label claims. And so whenever we do make these claims in terms of being able to share the benefits that are on your screen here right now, we need to make sure that we're able to credibly and quantify and back those claims up. And so that's something that I think we all need to be careful of, because if we do this wrong, we put this technology at risk moving into the future. So finally, I had a slide where I wanted to talk just a little bit about gene editing being much bigger than the PRRS-resistant pig. I think in the groups that I mostly interact with, especially because there are some individual animals that have been approved for consumption, and there is some commercialization of those. PIC is looking for a global commercialization of this technology, and so widespread use. And why that's happening, we're also seeing applications happen around the world. And we think that this is incredibly helpful for our market acceptance efforts, especially with some of the work that we're seeing done in human health. And we call this our human health halo. When consumers can see that this technology is being applied to human health and being able to address diseases and concerns that potentially their loved ones are facing, we believe that that creates an additional link and an understanding that this technology should and can be used for animal agriculture. Of course, in fruits and vegetables, we're seeing a lot of movement there as well. Conscious Foods, pairwise, they've launched some leafy greens that have been gene edited. I think they have a mustard green that has removed a bitterness taste, and so they've actually done some really interesting marketing that I've been following, and I think is actually pretty sharp, where they're actually putting it straight on the label, CRISPR lettuce. And so it's an interesting one where you're providing transparency, but also, there's also an association with that product attribute itself. But we're continuing to see progress on fruits and vegetables, especially in the berry space. And I think we're going to see a lot more news moving there. In animal production, we have seen movement globally, especially on cattle. We've seen some slick cows. I'm sure you guys have talked about that some this conference. But we're also starting to see some other really exciting type applications, like potentially being able to solve high path avian influenza with gene editing. This is a very concerning virus, and we're seeing it move and spread very quickly, especially across animal species. And so if we could solve something like avian influenza, I think it provides an even cleaner direct link to some of the benefits that gene editing can provide, and there probably won't be as much of fringe pushback. And then finally, we believe that all of these things are leading to consumer acceptance and a growing increased awareness of what gene editing is. And so as we go out there and we talk about all of this, we need to make sure that the consumer understands that we're not talking about one thing. If you say no to a PRRS-resistant pig, you're saying no to gene editing. And if you're saying no to gene editing, you're saying no to all of these things that are really exciting that are in front of us right now. But you're also saying no to some things that we don't even know what this technology can solve yet. And as we work to commercialize this technology, Genus and PIC have invested significant amounts of resources, both human and capital. And if we can't bring these technologies to market, even after doing the technology and bringing it right, I think it puts the technology at risk of being able to attract future investment and have future positive developments. So I know I moved pretty quick, and I wanted to cover some ground, and I wanted to leave some time for some questions. I did want to share my email address with you. It's banks.baker@genusplc. I'm always open if you have any questions, concerns, or want to learn about any of some of the work that we're doing. Always feel free to reach out.